Okay, so morning everyone, and I'm Zhengnan. I'm working on Synthesis 7. How can historic AC data be leveraged to achieve more sustainable and efficient future projects? And here comes the main problem. Not here. Oh, and so here comes problem. The construction uses more than 60% of the raw materials globally, and building materials produce about 30% of the industry's carbon emissions. But in Australia, only 4.6% of the materials comes from recycled sources. But there is good news if we can reuse or renovate these components. Instead of to 30% of the carbon emissions compared to the new constructions. So existing buildings aren't obstacles; they are hidden warehouse of valuable material stock. And however, it's hard to assess the what's inside them. So many don't have the digital models. Some of them just have the hand drawings. And length scanning of each components of existing buildings is very labor intensive. So especially the buildings from 1960s to 1990s. And most of them may likely facing demolition today. However, these buildings still come with the treasure, like the historic 2D drawings, the material bills, like the bills of quantities, and the regulations and building codes at that time, and some construction notes are waiting to be unlocked. So imagine if there will be a platform like a kind of urban eBay for materials. The policymakers could see the material potentials of the entire cities, and the architects and facility managers can locate reusable materials in real time and even visualize their potential transport methods or routes. And this comes from the concept of urban mining, which treating cities as quarries, but instead of digging out mountains, we mine our existing buildings. Um, and to enable urban mining, we need better digital method for estimating material stock at building and city scale. So my research will focus on three key points: the existing buildings, components, material passports, and cadastral registrations. And think of the material passport as a digital passport for each component in existing buildings, like the beam, the column, and even the window. And it can tell you not only what it is and how it can be reused. And in terms of the material passport, there are three main framework, the BMB, building as material banks from the EU Horizon 2020 projects, and Pyramid Waterman's framework and the ORMS framework, which is aligned with the UNICLAS classification and contain different types of digital passports. However, most current frameworks focused on the new construction attributes, like some of them will provide the manufacturer details or the product guarantees. But in real scenarios, it demands much more information, like the condition of the components and how easily it can be disassembled, or whether it has real reuse potential, and when and where we can reuse them in the city scale. And there are five main approaches for a developed material passport: the beam-based, platform-based, blockchain-based, and QR or RFID-based, and GIS-based. And among them, the beam-based approach are the most widely adopted. And in among the beam standard, IFC is the especially powerful because it's open and interoperable. And so like the IFC element quantity, the entities like IFC element quantity and IFC material profile, we can store store the information, some basic information of each component, like the dimension and like the width, length, and height of the columns. And if we customize the property sets, we can track and store the some extra end-of-life information like the reusability levels, lifespan, or disassembly potential of the components. Um, but in the real project, if we want to move a component from one side to another, we need to ask who actually owns it. And there is where cadastral registration comes in, which can track the land ownership. And by extending the LADM, the land and administration domain model, we can store and track the building materials at multiple levels legally and especially over decades. And maybe in the future, even a column or a window can have their paperwork, like buying second-hand cars, but in this scenario, it's like building parts. So my research aim is integrate architectural, material, and cadastral information into a framework and promote circularity and reuse of existing buildings. And there is the important note that the city scale use doesn't mean we need a super detailed BIM model. Sometimes maybe a low LOD model, but with the high level of information, like some semantic information from historic data can also be powerful. And so the main research question is what kind of data model can consistently capture, organize, and maintain material information for reuse in existing buildings throughout their life cycle. And the research outcome will be an extended multi-level material passport framework, a structured IFC-based schema with customized property sets, and a prototype for material registration and life cycle tracking. And I will use the action design research and develop and test maybe the proof of concept prototype with our industry partners. And recently, I already test some AI assisted tools like the Wisebin and Amplify plugins in Revit to translating the scanned hand drawings into the BIM model. And these experiments are the important steps towards creating automated and non-deconstructive workflows for the existing buildings. And the next step will analyze the accuracy and the limitations and also the integration potential into the real world renovation or deconstruction projects. And if we succeed, we can move from treating the old buildings as a waste into treating them as a material bank. And thank you for your attention. Look forward for your feedback and future collaboration.
Can you turn on? Okay, while I deal with the batteries of this microphone, do we have any questions for Zhengnan? Or comments?
I will ask slowly then. Thanks for the presentation. It was very interesting and obviously it's a very interesting topic, very timely. And I just wanted to ask you if you already had counted some of your research in terms of theoretical background and the literature review of how much you have covered practices that already are known and operating in the realm of urban mining, especially Dutch architects, which right now are at the forefront of urban mining itself, to understand their processes, how they're doing it, and what's required for you, obviously, to learn from them and adapt it and put it into a digital model.
It's like the literature review or part or the.
If you have came across already in your literature review of some of these practices and studied their approach, basically, how you want to adapt it then into your digital model.
Yes, because there are some platforms like the Mendesa platform, which from Europe, and they can already integrate some European regulations into their platform, and but I think their attributes have some like it can help me to find out which attributes is important for the buildings at building level or city level. But maybe some of them, I mean, this platform will provide more information like manufacturer details or the product guarantees because it's the new construction and this can be tracked. But for the existing buildings, maybe in the past we don't have this very specific information or their manufacturer already disappeared. So, but this platform are also have some like it will need you to upload the LOD 350 models, then they can calculate some circularity score, and maybe that will help me to build up the framework in the next steps. Yes, but it's not like the Mendesta platform. It will have some difference with this platform in my research. Yes.
Any other questions? Yep.
Thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting how you're connecting the unit class to the circulation. I just want to point out that you used unit class 2015, which is European
Yes.
classification. Again, we have the only class American.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that in Australia, Transport for New South Wales, they have asset classification system, which is the Excel sheet, how they classify the assets, and they're using unit class 2015. So if you want to just have consider this, I think it is.
Yes, I try to figure out their difference, and because as you said before, like the 2015 is from like in Europe and
there is
another US.
Your version of it because it didn't include the linear infrastructure, so they. I think they issued the newer one that have, like we used it for railway, mileage, linear infrastructure, and the Americans only class.
Yeah.
But here, so far I know transport using Uniclass 2015 in their asset classification system. I don't think someone else as in government body using it. I'm not sure.
Yes, I think which classification system I will use in framework is still the next. I like the next question I need to consider, and I need to compare both of them. Which one is better? Or
you just choose. Like here, it's used to just choose one of them. Like the court said, the papers.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a really interesting presentation. What do you see at the moment as the greatest, at this stage of the research, what do you see as the greatest difficulties or barriers? Or, you know, is there anything kind of insurmountable in this? Or do you feel you can see the path ahead now and there's going to be a demonstrator at the end which will get all cities doing this?
Yes, I still try to find, because there are many attributes of the components and the materials, but maybe in the next step, we just focus on like 4 or 5 attributes, which is most important for the material reuse. So it will need to some workshop or interviews with industry partner to figure out which one is important for the architects in real projects. And yes, I think maybe that's the challenging question for me now. Yes, thank you.
Make me work back and forth.
Great presentation. Have you looking at RFID tags and all those sorts of techniques for embedding knowledge in components so that they can be picked up in the future?
Yes, there are some digital framework which can promote the material passports, and they already mentioned like the RFID based approach.
Right.
Yes, and the QR code approach, which you can scan and track the material information in when you are disassemble these components or reuse these components in the construction phase. Yes, that's
So that's in the construction phase as
Mhm.
opposed to the demolition phase.
I think the material passport is for the pre-demolition phase, and if they can reuse in the next step, like to renovate or refurbishment of the buildings, or you can just disassemble one components from the existing buildings and move them to the another site for reuse. Maybe that is the construction phase of the next buildings. And in this process, it will need the RFID based approach. But now I don't explore so many in this approach, but I already know that. Yes, I will try to figure out. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments maybe from the back? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, Zhengnan.
Thank you.
So before I introduce the next speaker, I forgot to mention that we have for each session